Good morning. I'm just heading home from the gym. I've had to fit an extra workout in this week because this afternoon we've got some friends coming to visit, and we're going to go to the local brewery here in Ringwood to have a look around, drink some of their ales, and ultimately end up in a pub nearby that serve craft beers from around the world, and also the most amazing burgers you'll ever eat. So I have got a day of indulgence ahead of me, which is why I thought I'd better do an extra workout this morning so I can do it guilt-free. But talking about breweries and beer in particular, which is a particular favourite subject, it got me thinking about how that industry has moved on from, say, 25 years ago to where it is now. Odd years ago, I personally wouldn't have even thought about going around and doing a tour of a brewery, and I certainly wouldn't have had the choices of ales and beers that I've got nowadays. It was pretty much, certainly here in the UK, a dying industry, and it was kind of set on that path by the advent of trendy new lagers and Alco Pops. At the time were a big thing. Everybody was drinking them, and couple that with new age or new world wines that were getting fashionable again. All these things kind of conspired against the beer industry, and as a result they didn't really react. So what happened to the beer industry? How did they go from being pretty boring and unimaginative to where they are now, being pretty trendy again now? It kind of, I guess, happened 15 years ago when a handful of craft brewers basically started making small batches of interesting beers. They were beers that suddenly had flavour and something different about them, and actually they were exciting. They started to become a little niche market of trendy drinks that people were happy to be seen drinking. It wasn't associated with a drink that your granddad would drink while smoking his pipe anymore. It was a whole new world of drinks that very, very slowly initially started to develop, and bit by bit people became inspired by it, and the industry as a whole started to latch onto it and realise that actually here's something that we can become part of and start to make money out of beer again. So bit by bit they started producing craft ales, different ales. They started branding them differently, selling them differently. Ultimately it was still an ale, but it was done in a very modern way. Well, I think that there's some real comparisons that can be drawn between the brewing industry and mass automotive industry, and the way that ICE cars and ICE vehicles are being forced to change and develop into something new, something that people actually want. What a brilliant night. Unfortunately, alcohol stopped play and I had to stop filming, so this might be a little bit disjointed, but I'll try and pick up where I left off. You know, when you turn up on these tours and the tour guide says the less questions you ask, the more time you're going to have to drink in here afterwards, you know you're on for a good tour. And to be honest, it went downhill from there. But very, very good, great tour, great fun, thoroughly enjoyable evening. So, trying to remember where I was yesterday. I was comparing the brewing industry to the automotive industry, and kind of looking back in history and talking about how you had the big six makers of beer who pretty much controlled everything. If anyone tried to bring anything new to the market, they just stifled them out, and that was the end of it. Until along came the Alco Pop, and just threw the market into disarray, because all of a sudden young people were out buying alcohol. Not that they weren't before, but they were actually enjoying it now. And on the back of that, we saw trendy lagers come to the forefront and rebranding of lagers and calling them ice cold and all the rest of it. Again, it was just marketing, it was just PR, but it shook the industry up. And those old dinosaurs who moved with it, they're still here today. Those that fought it, well, they're no longer here. And that's the end of them. And time moves on. And ultimately, the consumer gets what they want. Well, now let's look at the automotive industry and the old dinosaurs that have pretty much fought any change for years. Because let's be honest, ICE cars haven't really changed an awful lot. We've had new toys put on them, but other than that, they're much the same as they've always been. Well, all of a sudden, Tesla, the alco-pop, if you like, of the industry, burst onto the scene and said, hey, look at our Roadster, look what it can do, look how much better that is than anything you've produced in years. And they followed that up with the Model S, and things just evolved. Well, those old dinosaurs who saw the writing on the wall and decided, actually, we'll have a go, and produced things like the Nissan Leaf, the Renault Zoe, the i3, those early EVs that we saw, they've well, it's paid dividends for them, because now they're in a really strong position in the market. And the last of the old dinosaurs are either struggling because they are way behind the curve and don't have any plans, or have played lip service to trying to plan an EV, or there's those that have finally come to the realization that actually we need to get on and do something about this, because if we don't, we're going to be left behind, and well, let's be honest, their companies will fold. Well, you must be thinking, well, that's all very interesting. Thank you for telling us all about the brewing industry, but what's your point? Well, my point is that one of those old dinosaurs that's been around for years and has been totally stifled in the way that they produce EVs is Vauxhall. So in the UK, they're called Vauxhall. In Europe, they're called Opel. And up until the end of 2017, General Motors owned them. So General Motors obviously have a number of different brands that they sell, and they've been relatively successful with EVs. So we've seen the Volt, which in Europe was the Opel Ampera or Vauxhall Ampera, as a hybrid that has a ICE motor that recharges the battery. So it's a traditional hybrid. They then produced the Bolt, which is an amazing car that we all wanted to see. They sold it in Europe, and there they called it the Opel Ampera E, which a little bit confusing because it was a completely different car, just had an E put on the end. But they sold it, and places like Norway really adopted it well. Well, on the back of the Ampera, GM said they will never build a right-hand drive Bolt Ampera E for the UK, for Vauxhall. And that's the reason being, the Ampera is it's sold so badly, the Volt, it's sold so badly in the UK, they're not going to put the investment into making a right-hand drive version just for the UK. So for that reason, forget it. So Vauxhall were kind of left hung out to dry, really. They had no electric vehicles and no electric vehicles in the pipeline, and they were kind of thinking, well, the market's moving, what can we do about it? Well, thankfully, end of 2017, a company called PSA, they own Citroën and Peugeot, they bought the Opel Vauxhall brand from GM, and it's pretty much as soon as they've bought it, they've started announcing EVs. And this brings me on to the announcement that I heard this week that I wanted to share with you. So for some time, they've been talking about a small EV, bringing it to the market. They've now said that the Vauxhall or Opel Corsa, which if you don't know what it is, it's a small car, probably Zoe sort of size, very, very popular here in the UK. It's one of the best-selling cars here. They are going to produce that as a full EV. And on the back of that, I can only see now Vauxhall going from strength to strength, because I think if they put a 200-mile battery in that, to be honest, anything over a 150-mile battery, then that's going to be an absolute winner, and that is going to take sales away, certainly from the Leaf, certainly from Zoe, the i3. It's going to be a really, really good competitor, because Vauxhall is a brand that people like in the UK. In a roundabout sort of way, I got to my point. I'll show you some pictures of the current Corsa, and I'll try and show you a picture of, there's a concept car that Vauxhall have been developing that I think is probably, if you look at the current Corsa and the concept car, somewhere in the middle of that is probably what this new EV is going to look like. And it's a nice looking car. So I'll show you some pictures of that. But that's it. I've had a great night. And as always, to get over anything, in fact, I don't need an excuse. I'm meeting a mate for coffee. So I'm going to drink some coffee and enjoy the rest of the day now. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's vlog. If you have, remember to like and share it. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you again soon. Take care.